In this episode of our CEOs and CSR series, we interview Nicholas Gardner, CEO and co-founder of Helping Habit, a company that connects volunteers and donors with the causes that need them most. Thanks everyone for tuning into this episode. Today we have Nicholas Gardner, who's the CEO and co-founder of Helping Habit. Nicholas, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. It's so great to connect with you. I really appreciate you reaching out and wanting to find out more about kind of the work Helping Habit is trying to do.
All right. So per usual, we always get it kicked off by asking our guests what is kind of the purpose or the mission of their organization. So I'd love to start there if that's all right.
Yeah, no, definitely. For nonprofits who struggle to attract, retain volunteers and donors, and for companies looking to save kind of time and money managing their corporate social responsibility programs, Helping Habit is a platform as a service that gives nonprofits the tools they need to grow and really sustain their mission, while empowering companies' corporate social responsibility programs to make a bigger impact in their community.
Awesome. We're going to get into that because that sounds very juicy. Before we do it, I'd love to hear kind of your why. Like, why you? Why is this your current career?
Yeah, definitely. So I always knew from like a young age that I wanted to kind of live a life of service, that I wanted to help others in with the talents and time and responsibility I've been given, that I really felt that that you could help others make a greater impact in their lives. And so I went to Gonzaga for undergrad, and the idea of giving back to others and selfless led volunteering or what have you is really at a core of what the student body at Gonzaga does. There's a huge percentage of the undergrad that volunteers on a regular basis. I volunteered with some underage kids in kind of primary school, and served as a mentor for a kid through 3 grades, and it was just an incredible experience. After college, I went into politics, kind of trying to help make a more macro level change, increasing access to healthcare for underserved kids in Colorado. And then I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, went to law school and thought about switching it up to make more micro level change, where I became a public defender and did that for quite a while, working day in and day out with indigenous populations, people who need someone who is willing to stand up and kind of speak for them. And it's a really underserved population, especially here in Colorado. Colorado's got an incredible public defender program. I'm kind of leading the nation on how and why you can help serve those populations. But while I was there, I kind of realized that I liked the middle ground, where I could help effectuate kind of macro level change by offering services that might kind of make a micro level impact, where you could feel the day-to-day impact, right? I kind of lost that in the politics side. But when you're making micro level change, personally for me, it was you don't see it's hard to lose that kind of bigger picture, And when I was a juvenile public defender, we were helping kids, but I had 248 cases at one time. It was just unsustainable, man. So what I was doing is I was trying to find extrajudicial ways for me to help the kids kind of break that recidivistic cycle. Is there some sort of after school programming? Is there tutoring? Is it access to food? Or is the child acting up because they're hungry? And really empathize with kind of the situation they're in. And what I found is that was really helping the quality of outcome that I could provide. There just weren't enough hours in the day. So if I could help get them outside of the system, find an organization or somebody who kind of cared about their plight, and we could really get them outside of the court system and see these really great quality of outcomes. And while I was doing that, I realized what happened to my volunteerism. It wasn't just the day-to-day stuff, but what about the things that I cared about? For me, it's kind of childhood hunger. And so I started looking into programs that help with that, but the information they had was outdated. It wasn't, I couldn't sign up with it right away. And there were too many impediments to actually getting involved on a day-to-day basis. Have you seen that in kind of the work that you do, that there's just too many steps, right? To get involved these days.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Trying to reduce and eliminate as many barriers as possible for people to get in and people to get engaged and give back, whether it's giving their time, talent, treasure, testimony. Absolutely, seeing that.
Yeah. So I reached out to a buddy of mine from Gonzaga, who's also a lawyer, and we kind of talked through that problem. Like, why is this so difficult? Why was this something that we really loved doing in school that kind of fell off, that we just either don't have time for, or it doesn't match our kind of interests, time, location, schedule, kind of what have you. And so, fortunately, I have a really great friend network who was willing to put me in touch with organizations that they work with, either as board positions or volunteers. And so we had this idea for like a connecting, like a hub where you could find these resources. It was just more like here's this organization that does this thing now, go get it. But after talking to those nonprofits, we interviewed like 60, and we realized that the need was much greater. It wasn't just organizing or connecting with nonprofits. It was really, they lack access to a whole suite of services, tools, automation, etc., that most organizations can't pay for. If 75,000, or excuse me, 75% of nonprofits have a budget of $500,000 or less, we're talking the vast majority of nonprofits who are out there making real impact in their community, trying to solve problems that people face every day.
Yeah.
They just don't have the tools they need to kind of grow and sustain their mission. So they're kind of treading water. And then out of those conversations was born kind of the idea for Helping Habit, this kind of one-stop shop toolbox, like efficiency, automation tools to grow your mission, sustain your mission, and really kind of grow that impact that we see nonprofits can make if given the opportunity.
And you saw that transition from having a hyper focus on working with youth to childhood hunger to wanting to scale, having an impact on that specific, I guess you could say, injustice in society, to how do we make this even more scalable and engage all different types of nonprofits and all different types of organizations. What was that like? How was that jump, or did it just naturally happen?
No, it was kind of like an aha moment, right? It's like,
Yeah.
You have this idea for this thing that could be born out, and you kind of question, am I the person to do this? Are we the group that can kind of get this over the hump? Do we have the skill set?
Yeah.
And we, fortunately, my other co-founder, one of them is a lawyer as well. So we took a really methodical approach. We started the company, founded it, and didn't do anything other than kind of research in our kind of spare time for almost over a year. And it was in that time that we realized that there was not just the need that we sought out to solve, but a much bigger problem. And that if we offered a toolbox of things, that maybe there was something that could help an organization grow. Not all nonprofits are the same. It's they're varied as different kind of businesses, right? The needs that an organization that packs food for young children is not the same as an organization that is looking to help animals and cats or dogs kind of find homes. They're much different beasts.
Yeah.
And so we, rather than kind of say, this is something that we built, now use it, it was more like, what are the problems you're having? And how could we build a tool that solves multiple of those problems so that you can use it however you want? And it was really within that refined feedback, that the platform is built by nonprofits, soliciting feedback directly from them. Because I'm not a nonprofit executive director. I'm not a volunteer coordinator. I don't do that on a day-to-day basis. I have done that, in order to get that research, but we really wanted it to feel as though it was something that they had built themselves to solve the problems they say every day. And that kind of helps with the stickiness of the product, right? Like, there's a lot of turnover in nonprofits. It's incredible work. But as you know, the shelf life for working in a nonprofit is really short. And so if we could transcend that kind of churn in the nonprofits by offering that tool set, we might offer a toolbox or something that nonprofits could use despite, the constant kind of turnover.
Okay. So you've said toolbox a few times now, and for our nonprofit listeners, so executive directors, volunteers, even for-profit organizations that want to connect with nonprofits, when you say toolbox, what does that mean to me as a nonprofit executive director or
Yeah,
volunteer
great
coordinator?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's if your need is like a soup kitchen, I need volunteers every Friday from 9 to noon to show up and serve food or pack food or deliver food or whatever it is. You can have an opportunity. People can sign up. It automates notifications. Those are cancellations, sign-ups, reminders, thank yous. It allows you to see who's coming. You have a roster. It automatically posts on your website. Once it's created. But if you're an organization who doesn't need day-to-day volunteers, but you need board members, you need skill-based volunteerism. So if you need attorneys or accounting help or marketing help, you can post an open need, more like a kind of a yellow page ad. You can do kind of fundraising events, ticketed events, galas, etc. So that kind of wide array of needs that nonprofits have on day to day, on a year long basis, kind of month to month. There's something in the platform, whether it's those kind of automated or efficiency tools. So we're kind of like a volunteer management system,
Right.
CRM light, for reports, donations, etc. Kind of gives you something for any nonprofit that they could use to help grow that mission.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I want
definitely.
to go back to something you said initially when you were talking about your journey, and you mentioned that when you're at Gonzaga, you reflected on your talent, the time you have, and you said responsibility that you have. I'm always curious as to our guests' DNA, because a lot of times I feel like folks that work in this space and in this industry and support the industry are sometimes a different breed. So I'd like to uncover like what has fed into that DNA of our guests. And you mentioned time, talent, responsibility. Uh, what do you think has led that to being your response for kind of why you wanted to kind of devote yourself to this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that part of that is that it's that kind of self evaluation that I've been lucky to have lived the life that I have. Um, in both family support, friend support, the educational opportunities. But I have also seen and lived the other side of that, where at the beginning it wasn't kind of how it ended, and knowing want or hunger or lack of housing security kind of makes you appreciate when you do have the good things about that this isn't the only, I'm not the only one facing these problems, and that you can live kind of a fulfilled life, an engaged life, while helping others. That there's value in that, even if they don't recognize it, if they don't respond to it, if they don't ever, you never get that constant feedback. You know that you've kind of put that good out into the world. And in going to Gonzaga, they give you that like a holistic education where they they really help you see why giving back to others can create good, not just in your community, but in your own life. And that idea of helping nonprofits, even if I don't, if I'm a dog owner and I'm not a cat owner, you can still help organizations, even though you may never have experienced the problem that they're having, through access to services. That there's a way in which my particular talents or your particular talents or whomever's, you can go out and make that impact, and offer that up to nonprofits who are, in desperate need of people's time, help, and effort.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Yeah, I went to school at Loyola of Chicago, a Jesuit
Yeah.
institution, and I think we have some similar similar ethos of the organization, the schooling that we've been through. So right there with you. All right. So helping Habit, the evolution. Talk to me about the inception and kind of some of the initial growth to where you are today.
Yeah. So back to those conversations we had, we interviewed nonprofits of all sizes, right? We interviewed VOA of Colorado all the way down to kind of one woman-led nonprofits who were just, struggling to get by, to see kind of the wide array of problems that nonprofits face, from huge behemoths to small, $100,000 or less nonprofits. And out of that was this connection of one-time or ongoing kind of needs. And we launched the product in alpha with a local organization that does kind of street art in Colorado, to see kind of, is this something that would help alleviate some problems? What are we missing? And we got some incredible feedback from nonprofits. And we realized that there's a strong connection between volunteerism and donors, that a lot of times volunteer coordinators or executive directors don't want to lean on very heavily, and that our platform was missing. And so we kind of quickly took it out of our alpha stage and then beta tested it after we added donation processing. Volunteers are twice as likely to donate as non-volunteers, and they donate 10 times as much money on average. So if we weren't allowing the volunteers to donate, or we didn't have that functionality, we were really closing out ourselves on about 50% of the volunteerism market, where donors, 60% of donors find somewhere they volunteered because that's where they donated in the past, right? I'm gonna speak with my wallet first, and then I'm gonna go out and follow it up with kind of action. So if we didn't strengthen that connection, if we didn't follow up with that, the product, was going to have kind of a short life cycle, because it was only going to be so helpful to nonprofits. And so we really added into those automated features, customized donation page, so that nonprofits of all sizes can have a single page on their website. It's not a redirect, so we're not losing 30%, for every redirect of donors. And then allows those small nonprofits to have like an authentic, connection with their volunteers and donors, that it feels like I'm connecting with that organization rather than helping Habit. We really, at the beginning, we wanted to remove ourselves from that interaction between the donors and the nonprofits, or volunteers and nonprofits. We didn't want to insert ourselves as a middleman. We wanted the nonprofits and donors to strengthen, and volunteers to strengthen that bond that they have with each other through the use of our platform, really as a means by which they can grow their community. And so that beta test, went fantastic. We launched it wide, and we've kind of been off to the races ever since. We hold a quarterly roundtable with our nonprofits to solicit feedback, and I think that's really helped with our customer success. The nonprofits know they have someone they can contact at a moment's notice. They'll get a response back usually within an hour. And it really helps set us apart that we're doing this as a partner with the nonprofits. We're not just some, faceless organization. We're in it with the nonprofits to help them really grow that mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we talked about the history and the current state. What are some of your plans for the platform moving forward, in addition to the quarterly and soliciting feedback and changing the platform based on feedback from the actual nonprofits?
Yeah, so we that feedback has really led us into studying some volunteer behavior, and I think this goes back to a question you asked earlier about what's in our shared DNA. Why do we do what we do? And there are people who are intrinsically motivated to volunteer and to donate, right?
Yeah.
You started your organization because you wanted to, right? You felt a call to or need to, et cetera, that there was this niche that you could fill. Unfortunately, the average person isn't intrinsically motivated, right? We need to find out what's motivating them extrinsically.
Right.
And then once we find that motivation, kind of how can we make it easier either for them to get involved, or how can we make it easier for them to donate? And so we're seeing some really incredible data about recurring donations, how through a little bit of upfront work, you can really help donors and volunteers strengthen that connection between the work that they do, the work that the organization does on a day-to-day basis. And we see people are backing that up with their donations. We have several nonprofits on the platform who've kind of made these small changes, and they've seen incredible increases on recurring and average donation side. And so we're really doubling down on in the next 9 to 12 months on features that allow that process to be that much more efficient and automated, so that nonprofits aren't wondering on a day-to-day basis, can we keep the lights on? There's a little bit more stability, even if the average donation size, is smaller, because it's recurring, it's actually more sustainable. And then on the flip side, is that kind of CSR programming that nonprofits are really looking into to tap into. We're launching our CSR features on the platform, where companies can utilize the same efficiency tools, the same automation tools, the same reporting, to kind of break down those barriers between nonprofits and companies, so that companies can really see, feel, and grow the impact they're having in their communities.
And how is that documented? Talk to me a little bit about that CSR add-on or feature.
Yeah,
What
so
you call it? Yeah.
a lot of companies want to make an impact, and it's growing increasingly necessary. If you want to attract talent, if you want to retain talent, you want to stop employee turnover. If you want to offer up kind of those added things that employees say they want, they want companies to care about the organizations that the employees care about.
Yeah.
And as the workforce kind of ages, and you see more millennials and Gen Z, and they get involved, and it's more important to them, and they're speaking with their wallets. And so volunteerism needs to kind of follow suit, and it's really great for nonprofits, right? We're losing 1 million volunteers a year as the core volunteer population ages out. So companies and nonprofits have realized is that it's great for the companies, it's great for their bottom line, increases their efficiency, increases their employee turnover, and then the nonprofits backfill that need. And so a lot of companies right now, they're doing, they're tracking an Excel spreadsheet, or they're having to hound their employees, like, where did you volunteer? Who did you donate? Where's that receipt? We can't match this because it's not, it doesn't kind of match our standards. So all of those things that we've done for nonprofits, those automation reports, those connection tools on the nonprofit's website, all of that can be done for companies. We can take the same content, put it on kind of an internal posting page or a public page, and so that the employees can engage, the nonprofits that either the company is looking to sponsor, or they can share their hours, track their hours for the volunteers, and they do it that way. The PTO kind of handles itself. That's automated. At the end of the year, the company can do any sort of corporate donation match. Those reports are automated as well. So really kind of reduce those friction between going out and volunteering as a company, doing a give back day. All of those automated tools we've offered to nonprofits, kind of rework them and made them work for companies.
Gotcha. And as you mentioned, one of the big reasons why companies are doing this is to stay competitive in the market and respond to their employees' demands and needs and wants of engaging more with the community or with other nonprofits.
That's exactly right. We have some great connections here in the Denver network, and as part of their kind of yearly roundtable report for some of the companies, they do like a survey of employees, and we're talking, companies 500 to 1,000 employees. So these are, healthy companies. And the number two thing that we've seen on all the reports that we've kind of gotten are that employees want, besides work from home, is that employees want the companies to care about the things that they care about. And that means the causes that matter to them. And so offering up paid time off, offering up some sort of donation match, offering up the ability to have the group go to the nonprofit or organization that they care about, increases the kind of employees' affect, decreases turnover rates, and really affects kind of the company's bottom lines. It's just kind of becoming increasingly necessary, and it promotes a happy workforce, right? You want your employees to be happy about their jobs. It increases their efficiency, increases their motivation to continue to stay with the company, increase the value that they add to the company. And if the company can automate how they do that, then all the better for both the employees, the companies, and especially the nonprofits.
Yeah. I feel like I have a lot of questions. So why do you think we're losing 1 million volunteers a year?
Yeah,
If at the
so
same time, like you mentioned, employees are demanding companies to get more engaged. Like, I feel like those are opposing metrics.
exactly right. So
Yeah.
when we first started Helping Habit, we really looked into that. Um, why, the big question we had is, why are we losing 1 million volunteers a year over year? But if you look at Google Trends, they're like searching volunteer opportunities near me, or volunteer opportunities in X city, are up like 1,500%. So there's a disconnect in terms of the number of people who are looking for those things and how people are following through. And so
Yeah.
we did some case studies at the beginning about, or some surveys about, why are people volunteering? Why do people volunteer? And then if not, why don't you? And the number one feedback that we've seen, and you can see this is borne out in follow-on studies. There's a great one recently out of the University of Maryland, from the Leidy Foundation, about kind of the need for volunteer coordinators and volunteers. It's just too hard to volunteer. Uh, if I have a need, those people who are extrinsically motivated, and that kind of on-demand need, culture that is kind of built up for food, for entertainment, etc. If I want to volunteer, I need to act on that impulse. And so if there's impediments to that, there's kind of a lack of throughput. And so volunteers, coordinators, nonprofits, the content on the websites is either stale, it's outdated, there's too many steps to get involved, there's too many forms
Yeah.
to fill out, there's onboarding, etc. So we can reduce those steps and make it easier, whether it's one click. For Helping Habit, it's two, right? You got to make a Helping Habit profile so we can track that information. And then two, you can sign up.
Yep.
That's it. It can be done on the nonprofit's website. It can be done in helpinghabit.com. It can be done in our app. But if we make it 2 clicks, 3 clicks, easy, now you're on Saturday, you're volunteering with that food-based organization here in Colorado, or in Chicago. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you're more likely to go back, right? Then it's helping the nonprofits maximize that volunteer time.
Yeah.
So we do surveys of volunteers on the platform, on how the nonprofits are doing, and then kind of help them improve kind of operationally. Here are some things that we've heard back from your volunteers on ways that you can help improve your volunteer experience. And then they're bringing their friends, and we're kind of doing a net positive increase to those volunteers numbers. Because if we don't, it's we can't afford for us to not fill that need, right?
Yeah.
Our communities need that help. Kids need that help. Animals need that help. The environment needs that help. We really need to work on backfilling the volunteer gap.
Gotcha. Well, I don't know how 27 minutes happened already, but we're getting close to the end here. So I want to make sure we capture some of the final items that I mentioned. People that are listening, whether it's volunteers or nonprofits or anyone, organizations, for-profit organizations, if they hear this and want to get engaged, what are the different engagement paths for those different groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, everyone's welcome to email me directly. My email is nicholas@helpinghabit.com. I have volunteers looking to fill community service hours who email me directly. And I'm happy to connect them with local organizations. Our website, info.helpinghabit.com, has great landing pages for the various groups. If you're a nonprofit and you want to find out more about our platform, and I kind of buried the lead, our platform for nonprofits is completely free. We do not charge nonprofits for the tools that we offer them. At the very outset, we did not want to punish nonprofits for the good that they're trying to do. So we've kind of shifted the burden for paying for that. And if you want to find out more about how we're able to do that, the services that we can offer, info.helpinghabit.com/nonprofits. Same thing with volunteers. And we have a great landing page for companies looking to automate their corporate social responsibility programs.
Awesome. And then you already shared your information. Any social media shout outs that you need?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're on all of them. Really, what we're looking for is again to remove ourselves, offer these tools up for free, and help nonprofits in any way we can through kind of access to technological services.
Yeah. And last question I usually ask is there anything you want to leave us with, whether it's something that we missed or something that you feel obliged to share with before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think your question about why we're doing this, it really gets to the heart of every day that's kind of driving me forward. The thing that gets me out of bed is that my favorite part about this, and you and I talked about this on our intro call, is finding those local organizations that you never knew existed, and they're just right down the street from you. I love that aspect of my job. That if there's a need out there, that there's someone who's willing and able to put their time and effort to do it, and they've started a nonprofit. And if we can kind of spread that our platform's free, that here's the service, use it, don't, that's great. But we're here as a partner to really help those nonprofits and local communities who are working day in, day out to make that impact.
Awesome. Well, Nicholas, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We're honored to share the work that you're doing, and folks that are listening, depending on what role you have, get engaged with Helping Habit. They have a lot of the tools in their toolbox to help you if you're a nonprofit or a for-profit trying to grow your CSR. And if you're a volunteer looking for some volunteer opportunities. So lots of folks, lots of options for our listeners. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you know of a great organization or individual leaving a positive impact, we'd love to tell their story. Check us out and contact us at gtzp.org. Don't forget, for more stories like this, you could also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Instagram followers are link trees in the bio. And for podcast listeners, we are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.